In this part, we will focus on the characteristics of the meeting environment that are different in virtual meetings compared to physical meetings. Those characteristics strongly affect how the virtual meeting is actually going, so it is very important for you to know them and know how to handle them. We will look at a couple of characteristics now, and afterwards look at some conclusions and implications. The first thing that you need to notice is that virtual meetings are always suboptimal. They will never live up to physical meetings, and you will never have the same efficiency and outcome in a virtual meeting compared to a physical meeting. So for you, it is really important to actually accept that and plan accordingly. The first difference that you will see is that usually in a virtual meeting you do not have a focal point to focus attention on. In a physical meeting you can use whiteboards, flip charts or presentations to summarize your discussion results and to focus the attention of all the participants. In a virtual meeting, however, you usually only hear people talk. So for all the participants it's sometimes really difficult to actually stay focused, and usually people don't always have a common understanding of what is going on. So for you as a leader of the meeting, it is very important to summarize frequently about decisions that have been taken, about major outcomes of discussions, and to always make sure that people know what are the next steps of the meeting. The next point is that in virtual meetings people are somewhat anonymous. This anonymity decreases the accountability of all the participants because people have the feeling that they can hide away and it's not obvious that at all times that they are also part of the meeting. So that actually implies that people will be less willing to contribute at any given time. If you have discussions going on, it's very important that you actually know this and address people individually, and it's always best to have a speaking order so that you do not forget anyone and people cannot hide away from their responsibility to contribute and to take part in a meeting. Not seeing each other also implies that you cannot really see how people feel about the things that have been discussed. So you don't know whether people actually agree with you or disagree but don't really say anything about it. And also you don't really see when people want to say something. For that, it always happens that in virtual meetings people interrupt each other, which can at some times be really frustrating. So it's important for you to structure the meeting accordingly and to make sure everyone knows at all times whose turn it is actually to speak, and to always check that people actually agree with what has been talked about and not disagree but then don't say anything. Not seeing each other also means that nonverbal cues are actually missing in your interaction. So you don't really see the faces of people, you don't really see their body language, and this can often lead to misunderstandings, especially concerning your emotions. So for example, you don't really see whether people are tired, whether they might have a headache, whether they have fun during the meeting and they enjoy what's been talked about. This can sometimes be really confusing, especially if people use irony, but you don't really see that they're smiling. So it's always important to actually know about this and make sure that you label your emotions clearly. So actually state, I am happy about this result, instead of just nodding and smiling, which no one can see in a virtual meeting. The last point is that a virtual environment often feels impersonal. You might have noticed that before, but you get quickly into a mood where you only see the virtual meeting as work. Socializing and small talk are often neglected because people want to be efficient and they want to get the meeting done and over with so that they can get on with their lives and continue to do proper work, which is often considered like that. This is actually really sad because it means that fun is often neglected in a team and people don't really like to contribute to the meetings and they don't look forward to the next meeting. So for you it is very important to actually bring in the socializing and small talk part into the meeting so that people actually enjoy the meeting and contribute willingly. To sum up, if you choose a meeting environment that you can actually shape, it is very important that you first of all consider all the points we have been talking about, But then also consider that the meeting environment that you choose has those 3 characteristics of simplicity, reliability, and accessibility. Starting with the last one, accessibility means that everyone who should participate in the meeting can actually access your meeting platform. For example, if you choose to go via a telco room, you have to make sure that all the people who should at some point participate in the meeting have a flat rate for landlines or access to a landline phone. This is not always the case, so you should check on that beforehand. On the other hand side, if you choose an online medium, people will always have to have internet access at meeting times, which can also be a problem in some occasions. The second point of reliability means that your medium actually runs stable. This especially concerns people being kicked out of the meeting or the platform collapsing entirely during the meeting, which can be really frustrating, and people often don't know what's going on or whether it was their fault or not. So make sure that whatever medium you choose, you can rely on its running stable. The last point of simplicity refers to the vast amount of different mediums that you can actually choose. There are many platforms that offer virtual meeting support, but sometimes they are very fancy and a little bit over-engineered. So make sure that whatever platform you use doesn't have too many fancy buttons and options that you can use to upload and share mediums, because if you do not use them in your meetings, then people will spend more time on figuring out how the platform actually works and finding those 1 or 2 features that they want to use amongst the 100 features that the platform offers, instead of really taking part in the meeting. So make sure that the platform that you use only offers the functions that you actually want. If we look at what we have learned about the virtual environment, it is obvious that not all kinds of content are really suitable for virtual discussions and meetings. What works really well is the distribution of tasks, updating people on the current state and on progress in your work, and general information sharing about what you have been doing and what your outlook on the future of the projects you are working on is. This is what you should do in your virtual meetings, and this is also what they have been designed for. On the other hand side, there is some content that really does not work well virtually and that you should avoid at all costs. These include emotional discussions on big changes and important topics, where people might also have a personal stake in the decision, and also conflict resolution if you have personal conflicts in your team, or you just have a strategic conflict where you don't know where you want to go. In those situations, it is better to try to arrange some sort of physical meeting to figure out the next steps, because virtually those discussions can drag out really long, can be frustrating and prone to misunderstandings. So try to find a physical alternative for this. Those conclude all the characteristics of the meeting environment. Thank you for listening, and in the next session you can learn about the characteristics of the meeting participants.